Alberta in the future won't look like Alberta does now. What climate change means for Alberta is a warmer and drier climate over time. We expect our provincial temperatures on average to increase by as much as 6 degrees Celsius over the next 100 years. And as a consequence of that change in temperature, our province will become drier as well. We'll start to see these patches of forest in the Aspen Parkland shrink in size. We'll see the trees starting to die off, and we'll see an expansion of grassland into northern parts of Alberta surrounding, for example, Edmonton. On the project, we are investigating what climate change will mean for our species and ecosystems in Alberta, and our human communities as well, because those species and ecosystems provide the foundation for our natural resource-based economy. Agriculture, forestry, those industries rely on services that are provided to us by our environment. As our species and ecosystems in the province change over time, there will be consequences for the industries that rely on those natural systems. Information about how climate change will impact our species and ecosystems is really important to fit into the puzzle of sustainable resource management in the province. One of the species that we're considering in some detail on the project is the ferruginous hawk. It's an iconic prairie hawk in Alberta, and it's also a species at risk in Alberta.
Ferruginous hawks are a species in the southern prairie. It's one of the largest hawks in North America, and they've not been doing so well over the last couple of decades. When you have a small population, like a ferruginous hawk, and that storm happens in one of the places where it's maybe more abundant, that can have a really big effect on its ecology. And what we're worried about with climate change in the short term really is more and more of these extreme events, just like we had in Calgary last year and in southern Alberta with the giant floods. That flood actually had a very negative effect on the hawks themselves. Many of them didn't make it through that storm. The goal in the short term is to identify how important this weather risk is and see if, in the case of the ferruginous hawk, can we make some adaptive choices? Can we build them nests that maybe are making it a little easier for them to survive those kinds of storms? In the longer term, though, it's using animals to raise awareness. Animals that are common today throughout Alberta may not be very common in 50 to 60 years because the entire climatic system in which they've evolved is either moving north or disappearing completely.
Plants, as compared to animals, certainly they don't have the capability to just get up and walk and move or fly. That in itself makes them much more vulnerable to climate change. You have to be more proactive and actually manage from a species-by-species basis, where you literally pick up the species and help them migrate if they don't have the capability to do that on their own.
My project is on assisted migrations, moving a species from its range to a range that is predicted to be more suitable under future climate change scenarios. I'm dealing with the northern blazing star, which is a really beautiful and charismatic plant. With climate change progressing, it's time for us to take action. The assisted migration is a type of proactive conservation tool that, because these species can't migrate fast enough, we're actually going to help them out and we're going to migrate them.
We don't know what the role of many species are and what the consequence of the loss of the species is. And so just from a precautionary approach, you'd want to save it in case there were important biological ramifications of their loss. This research has shown us that the pace of climate change does differ on where you are. And places that are flat or the high alpine areas, these are the areas and ecosystems that are going to be most threatened. I think it's important to intervene to try to save something.
The result of the funding from the CCMC for this project has been a huge increase in the body of knowledge on how climate change is affecting Alberta's species and ecosystems, and what types of tools and strategies we can use to support the management of biodiversity in Alberta.